I read Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse, and the one thing that fascinated me the most was this whole concept of the river being a metaphor for life. Written in 1919 by German author Hermann Hesse, Siddhartha in its essence is a novel about the spiritual journey of self-discovery of its protagonist, a young man named Siddhartha, living in ancient India some 2,500 years ago, right around the time of the historical Buddha. So without spoiling too much, his journey takes him from extreme asceticism as a wandering monk to complete indulgence as a wealthy merchant, and from the depths of suicidal despair to finding peace as a simple ferryman by a river. Following Siddhartha's journey throughout his life, the novel masterfully explores themes like spirituality, the self, and the idea that wisdom can be found in all aspects of life, from asceticism to worldly pleasure. What's important to note is that while the name of the historical Buddha was Siddhartha Gautama, in the book we have the main character as Siddhartha, as well as the historical Buddha named just Gautama as a completely separate character. The two also meet at one point and have a brief philosophical discussion, which is fascinating, as is the conscious choice of Hesse to split, if you want, Buddha in two and therefore kind of give two visions, 2 points of view. But that is a whole other story, and you have to read the book yourself. But for this video, let's just say the book is not really about Buddhism in that sense, but more so about the meaning of life in general. Coming back to the river from the intro, there's a point in the story when Siddhartha lives with that simple ferryman called Vasudeva, who teaches him his trade, but also teaches him in listening carefully to the river and seeing the river essentially as a metaphor for life. I'm now gonna read you this beautiful quote here. It's in German, as I only have the book in its original in German, but I'm gonna translate, of course. Hast du, so fragte er ihn einst, hast du auch vom Flusse jenes Geheime gelernt, dass es keine Zeit gibt, dass der Fluss überall zugleich ist, am Ursprung und an der Mündung, am Wasserfall, an der Fähre, an der Stromschnelle, im Meer, im Gebirge, überall zugleich, und dass es für ihn nur Gegenwart gibt, nicht den Schatten Vergangenheit, nicht den Schatten Zukunft. Think about that for a second. The river exists everywhere simultaneously. The water of the source is the water at the mouth. It's not becoming the ocean, it already is the ocean, just experiencing itself at different points. Years later, near the end of their lives together, Vasudeva encourages Siddhartha to listen once more, but this time deeper. And this really is one of the pivotal moments of Siddhartha's story, as he had learned before to hear voices in the river, to hear people's life stories in the river, but reached another level now. Siddhartha lauschte. War nun ganz Lauscher, ganz ins Zuhören vertieft, ganz leer, ganz einsaugend. Fühlte, dass nun das Lauschen zu Ende gelernt habe. Oft schon hatte all dies gehört, diese vielen Stimmen im Fluss. Heute klang es neu. Schon konnte er die vielen Stimmen nicht mehr unterscheiden, nicht frohe von weinenden, nicht kindliche von männlichen. Sie gehörten alle zusammen, Klage der Sehnsucht und Lachen des Wissenden, Schrei des Zorns und Stöhnen des Sterbenden. Alles war eins, alles war ineinander verwoben und verknüpft, tausendfach verschlungen. Und alles zusammen, alle Stimmen, alle Ziele, alles Sehnen, alles Leiden, alle Lust, alles Gute und Böse, alles zusammen war die Welt. Alles zusammen war der Fluss des Geschehens, war die Musik des Lebens. I really love this idea, this metaphor of the river of life and everything being part of it at the same time, and every good thing and every bad thing that has ever happened being part of the same river. For me personally, it gives me a sense of peace and zoning out in times of despair. I try to zoom out and see my pain as just one voice in this massive river of existence. not to diminish it, but to contextualize it. My suffering, my joy, my mistakes, my triumphs, they're all part of the same flowing whole. And somehow seeing it this way brings this profound sense of relief, like taking a deep breath and realizing everything is exactly as it should be. Not because it's all good, it's not, but because it's all necessary. The river needs both the clear mountain spring and the muddy delta to be complete, if you want to say it that way. Now, of course, you should probably see this whole idea as a tool and not cling too tightly to it, as the thought of everything being part of a perfect bigger picture, therefore being good as is, can of course lead to passiveness and even nihilism, which would miss the point though, in my opinion, because after all, the river still flows and shows action in that way. But you know what, I'm gonna stop right here, because in the book there's also a part where Siddhartha tells his friend Govinda that wisdom cannot be imparted. Wisdom that a wise man attempts to impart always sounds like foolishness to someone else. One can find it, one can live it, do wonders for it, but one cannot communicate and teach it. That's how Hesse describes it, and I think that's quite true. So now that we've talked about the one thing that really stuck with me from Siddhartha, now let me tell you about the reading experience itself. In terms of readability, Siddhartha is definitely not a particularly hard book to read, but probably also not the easiest book, the most beginner-friendly book to read. After all, it was written some 100 years ago and it does have some literary merit. I for myself, for example, struggled a little bit with the first quarter or so of the book, which I felt was a bit too slow and tiring, but come the second half of the book, and I was really hooked and captivated. Keep in mind though that, as I said, I only read the original German and not the English translation, which was done in the 1950s, I think. Now, for story context, I think that it does help to have some really superficial general idea of Eastern spirituality, but it's certainly not a must. When thinking about a book that is similar, I think Siddhartha is quite comparable to The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I hope I didn't butcher the name completely, should have looked it up. And I think Coelho really admired Hesse's work, and I also think that there is even a version of Siddhartha where the foreword is written by him. All in all, Siddhartha is definitely a beautifully written book I would recommend everybody to read and fully dive into. If you want to do that and also want to support this channel, you will find links to the book in the description below. These are affiliate links, so I may earn a small commission with every purchase. Alright, that's it. I hope you liked it. If so, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing. And yeah, I wish you a wonderful day. Bye bye.